G'day guys, it's Mike from Battlefield Accessories here. This instructional video is showing you how to put together this little thing that we call our shearer shed. Right, it's designed to go along with Eureka Miniature's fantastic range of Australian outback shearers, but we figure it's got lots of scope for other sorts of things where you need just an open based shed on your wargames table. Now, for all the Aussies out there, you'll understand the idea of, fighting for sheep or playing for sheep stations. I'm not sure how international that is, but in Australia it's one of those things that when somebody's taking something a little bit too seriously, then we say that you're playing for sheep stations. And so here is the ultimate addition to any battlefield or wargames setup that you've got, this sheep station. We've played with this a few times where you might start with it in the middle of the table, and then as somebody starts to ramp up how serious they're playing, we just push it across to their side of the table a little bit more, because clearly they're playing for sheep stations, and therefore they should be having this moving closer to their ultimate victory of their side of the table. We also toyed with the idea of making some rules, like ask for a rule query, 3 centimetre move towards your side, say that a dice which isn't cocked is cocked, then it might be a couple of centimetres to your side. So you can have a lot of fun with this kit. So it is available through Eureka Miniatures, both in Australia and Eureka Miniatures USA, and it will be available directly from our website. So stay tuned. I'm going to do a quick run through on how to build this little baby. I hope you enjoy. See ya. Okay, so the construction part of the video. So in your pack you'll have 3 pieces of corrugated card that make the main roof, a floor piece, and then some rafter supports, and 2 sprues of internal walls. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically de-sprue these. I'm not going to talk during that, so I'll fast forward this bit. So here we go. Okay, so some things to notice about these parts here. So you'll see these bits here have got insert pieces, and they'll have a corresponding one which doesn't have little cutouts for inserts. Now the idea with these pieces is they back to back to each other. Right, so it's a way of hiding the fact that there are MDF or supports that have actually been drilled into it. So for example, this one will sit like that. So from the edge you'll see this. From the internal you have places where you can link all your beams, and you'll see that they're short on one side, which then allows them to sit into the baseboard here, which we'll do in a second. So you've got 3 sets of those. Then you also have these pieces here which form up the back wall of the actual shearing shed. So construction, like always, some PVA glue. My strategy is a little bit on in a puddle, use a brush to put that on. When you're de-spruing these, just be careful because they're actually quite fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out the pieces first to make sure that I've got the right number of bits. So they're the 2 end walls, and then the middle section is these 2 bits that go together. And I'm just going to check that one of them is longer than the other, so it can sit down in the base. Okay, so PVA glue, here we go. Now, if you watched one of my videos before, you'll know that I'm a big fan of masking tape to hold pieces together, but I've also become a big fan of clothes pegs recently too. So just a clothes peg on those 2 ends just to keep them nice and snug. The internal lines you're not really going to, or the internal supports, you won't really see them because they'll be buried inside the internal of the building, but these end 2 you will. So I'm just going to peg those. Of course, if I've got any excess glue, I'm going to wipe that up too. Okay, trap for young players on this one. These holes at the top here, or grooves, have a rafter that passes all the way through them, so the critical bit on these is to make sure that they line up perfectly. Now to help with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fairly quickly do the assembly. So if I need to, move this one around just a fraction, then I can do that. Again, a little bit of a peg here. Alright, so you've got these beams that came with the kit. So the design of those is they're going to go into these sections here. So I'm going to start. Now there's something to watch out for. When I've glued that, it's actually moved when I've put the peg on it. So come along, bit of glue in each of those peg points on the bottom. Now in terms of which is the front and the back, it actually doesn't really matter as long as they go in. So just notice there I just gave that a spin around. It's telling me that they only go in one way. Right, so these rafter pieces, if you look at this one, basically going to sit in the top like that and hold the whole thing in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple on the top ones on, then I'm going to put the front two walls in while I've got plenty of room to maneuver into those spaces. So here we go, top one, double glue in each of those places. And this is where making sure you have really good alignment on that middle section will come into play. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that for the moment. Now there's another one to go at the back and a few more at the front as well. What I'm now going to do is put the front in now. These sections and these sections, for those people who've never seen a shearing shed before, these are the rear walls. And these pieces here make up the front walls, and the idea is that the shearer will shear a sheep and then pass the shorn sheep out through these holes in the front. So these ones are going to make up the front wall, and these the back. Okay, again, fairly straightforward. Bit of glue, not too much. Now, the engraved side is designed to be facing outwards because most people, once you get your roof on your model, aren't going to see the inside of it. They're going to see it from this perspective, from this view here. So you want it to look something like that when it's done. Rear wall, same again. tight there. Once you get a sense of how that looks there at the back. Final bit on these sections, you have these 4 engraved pieces that look like this, like timber work, and the idea is they sit on top, and if you like, it's like the bar that guys lean on as they're looking out over the shearing yard. One of the design goals of this particular piece was to try and minimise the amount of MDF joins and things you could see, so make it not look like an MDF kit, and this is part of the process there. I'm trying to hide all of the edges that I can. Now if you look at the top, you'll see that that started to come a little adrift. Right, so it might actually be worth me throwing a little line of masking tape across that to hold it in place. Okay, so final bits. In this section here, there are actually 2 bits of MDF runners that sit side by side. One of them, which is basically going to form the base of the roof iron coming this way, then the other one which will form the iron going that way. There's that one in place. One underneath it. Just put a little bit of pressure on that to hold it in place. Okay, and so there you have the timber work for this model. There's one last thing you've got here, which is the victory at all costs station, which as I'll talk about in the intro part, this is a bit of an Aussie joke. You can put that on if you want or leave it off. Where you put it's up to you. You can put it over on the side, you can put it down here at the front, down on the bottom. That's a little bit of a joke. You can use it or leave it out, up to you. Okay, so I'm just going to continue on with the next stage. We'll assume that that's been masked and is dried, so it's no longer pulling those pieces apart, which will take a couple of hours to dry. I'm going to show you the tin. Now the tin basically goes like this. So these bits sit classic Aussie sheep station or shearing shed with its corrugated iron infrastructure. So basically put that on like that, and that is it. Okay, so very simple. Corrugated card comes in the kit. I'm going to run a fairly liberal amount of glue on these sections here. Remember, this is going to disappear inside your model now. So I should also say, this is probably an optional part of the kit. Some people want the roof on it, other people don't, depending on what you want to do with the model. You could easily turn it into a destroyed shed by breaking some of these. For it to function as a wargaming piece like that, you need to probably back a bit of this structural material off. I've put that in place because the intent was to have it with the roof on, right? And so you'd be very difficult with all of that roof material on to actually get your hands in there to move figures around, right? So that's one of those things that's up to you depending on what your purpose of having the kit actually is. Now, only trick with this is both of these long pieces these wide pieces are the same. So start with that one there, because it's the one which is going to have the most biggest bearing on what happens next. So these pieces will then slide underneath. So you can decide if you want it to overlap on top or underneath. Just give it a gentle push down, try and avoid what I'm doing, getting glue on it. And the same with the other side. And there you have one completed shearing station. Enjoy!